Hi everybody, and during British Flowers Week, it's all about beautiful British blooms. Many of them are garden grown by fantastic artisan growers, most of whom are members of Flowers from the Farm. And it's really worth taking a look at their outstanding website to locate local growers who live close by, many of whom sell direct, will provide a non-contact delivery service, and you can locate members throughout the UK. And if you want to send flowers to somebody, it's a great way of doing it. But we've also got, of course, our own gardens, and why not create your own British bunch of flowers or your flower arrangement from your own garden gathered blooms? So I want to use this rather sweet little vintage container. It's a charity shop find from many moons ago, and these old style rose bowls where they've got a wirework structure inside for holding the flowers together still work perfectly well today, and of course you can use them over and over again. So let's begin. I'm going to start by adding some foliage into here. I've got a little bit of hebe which I've gathered from the garden, but any types of foliages will work into a display like this. Always better to start off with pieces of foliage. And I'm not going to do a huge arrangement here, I just want it sort of more delicate, more posy style in its essence. I've got some variegated privet, which again is looking really rather lovely. Just taking away those lower leaves that's going to get below the water level there. I often think variegated privet gets so overlooked because it's such a lovely little thing. And here I've got some of the small leafed buttercup yellow privet, which again I adore. It's such a heavenly thing, and when it first opens out it's like an explosion of lime green that then matures down to gold. And variegated things in the garden really handy because they always show off all our other flowers. Shrubs and foliage, backbone of any cutting garden for flower arranging or for floristry, and the more things you can grow yourself foliage wise the better, in my opinion, because it's dead easy to always access and buy interesting flowers, but less easier to keep buying nice pieces of foliage. So just that little sort of traditional shape there with foliage just branching around, and we're just going to add a touch more into there. And this is a flower, but it sort of transcends foliage flower boundaries, and it's the much beloved Alchemilla mollis. And here in Derbyshire it's just starting to come out. In fact, this is one of the first plants that's starting to open out. It's quite a slow thing here because it takes a few more weeks for many things to open because we're a little bit cooler. But Alchemilla, wonderful. And I know it can be a pesky thing because it seeds itself around the garden, so sometimes people are a little bit dismissive of it and do curse this and say it's a plague within the garden. But you'll never hear a florist or a flower lover cursing it because they celebrate it and extol its virtues. I grow it all around the edge of a large gravel drive, and it's contained within there. It does seed itself a bit within the gravel, but I just let it get on with it. I don't really care. But I don't have it in the main borders or in the cutting garden because it can be a bit too intrusive in that type of location. And a tip I would give you with the Alchemilla, if you want to extend its flowering period, then cut it back immediately when it's finished flowering, chop it right down to ground level, leaves, flowers, everything. I just get the shears and I just hack it right down there. And then within about 6 to 8 weeks, you've got small buds starting to appear. And then you'll get a second crop of Alchemilla, usually about sort of September time. And it's a much more intermittent crop than the main season one. But don't let that worry you because it's worth having. And basically by chopping it back, it puts on loads more fresh, wonderful leaves. And it's celebrated, of course, for how the leaves hold those pearly white drops of moisture when there's been heavy dews or when it's rained. And you'll get little droplets of rain sitting right on the tips of the leaves, and that in itself is a charming thing to celebrate and enjoy. Well, I'm getting this fabulous fragrance from the Nepeta or the catmint, and this is Nepeta Six Hills Giant, and it's heavenly. It really is such a beautiful blue. And this folks a little bit like Alchemilla. Chop it hard back when it's finished flowering, and again you'll get a wonderful repeat from it. It'll give you a second crop of flower in about 2 months' time. And Nepeta is one of those beautiful things that will actually grow in any location. It's not soil choosy, but it does like sun, so it's not happy in shade. So give it a good sunny spot, you'll get all those wonderful flowers there. So just show you how we're looking, it's pretty much the same from both sides. So blues, yellows, lime greens, energizing, vibrant, great fun colour scheme. And let's just add a few more into here. I've got a little bit of grey, and I've just gathered a few pieces of eucalyptus from the garden. Having a eucalyptus tree, or trees in my case in the garden, is very handy, but I don't let them go skyways. I keep them really cut back, keep them quite small, and you'll get better foliage then, and the foliage keeps that nice ovate leaf. If you let them grow absolutely enormous, then what you do tend to find is that the foliage becomes more elongated and thin and not quite so attractive, so they do benefit from being pruned back. So some grey in there, just activating the different blues. And while I'm talking about blue, and I've got a bee down here enjoying these, I've got some geranium, the hardy cranesbill, and this is Geranium Johnson's blue. Not a long-lasting cut flower, but worth having, but quite a long-lasting garden flower because it's got many buds to come. It's not just that one flower, it's got a multitude of secondary flowers to follow. And Geranium Johnson's blue, as you can see there, is a real bee magnet. We've got a bee absolutely, oh there it is, it's saying don't disturb me please. A bee absolutely loving being on these. I'll just leave that there so it can enjoy itself and revel in the Johnson's blue. My garden is such a bee magnet, I can't tell you, and I just get huge amounts of pleasure from wandering around the garden and watching the bees working in there and using all the flowers that I've grown with a great amount of care and love, and seeing the bees sharing that pleasure and using them, because that's what they're there for, isn't it? Well, always nice to grow a few other things that maybe you haven't thought of growing in the garden. So my next flower that I'm going to add into here is a great one to have, and this is the Gallenia. And Gallenia is this wonderful sort of wispy little white flower, white star-shaped flower, and it has these almost pinky red stems, quite fine, almost feathery foliage, a little bit astilbe-like with its foliage, but it's a great cut flower to have. I like it very much in bouquet work. It's perfect in amongst hand tides, or if you're doing bridal work, it looks gorgeous in there. And the nice thing about it in the garden is it's self-supporting, so it holds itself quite freely. You very rarely need to stake it or support it, unless of course you're really somewhere extremely windy, but it will hold. So we've just got the Gallenia in there looking really rather heavenly. And then I've got some Clematis Annabella, which is a fantastic one for cutting, very long lasting. This Clematis amazes me every time I pick it and work with it, because a bloom will go on for 2, sometimes even 20 days. It's quite astounding. Pick them at the right stage, pick them in budded form, and then watch them open out indoors. They're not happy in floral foam, but absolutely fine in water, of course, and they will go on and on and on. Now, this Clematis, it's semi-herbaceous, and it grows up through a framework in my garden. It's not self-clinging, so you do have to tie it and be quite vigilant about tying it in, because otherwise it does get knocked down if there's heavy rain or wind. So the flower stems are quite stiff, so it does need a degree of support, and the growth can be a bit brittle. So make sure you do work at it. It's a bit like having sweet peas, that Clematis. The more you tie it in, the better the result. But keep harvesting it, keep picking it, it'll keep repeat flowering for you. I do feed it as well throughout the growing season, so about every 10 days it gets a feed of tomato food, and that it seems to like that, it keeps growing. Well, I've got a few sweet peas to finish this one off, and they are the very earliest of my sweet peas. I've been picking these now for about 3 or 4 days, so it's a new treat. It's a new level of excitement for me, enjoying these beautiful sweet peas. And of course, they'll become second nature as summertime develops and more blooms keep opening out. But just a few of these going into here, it's going to fill the room. So we've got the catmint, we've got the sweet peas, and it's such a summery little thing to enjoy. It's saying mid-June to me, and it's mid-June, of course, from the garden. So sweet peas, again, greedy feeders. I feed them every week, and I use tomato food on there. I manure the bed very well each year, and you again have to be quite vigilant with tying them up because they do get knocked down by the wind. So this very pretty, delicate, dainty little almost vintage style posy arrangement is a celebration of British flowers during British Flower Week, and it's a few treasures from my own garden, from my cutting garden, that I wanted to share with all of you and perhaps inspire you to go and have a look, see what containers, see what pots you've got out there, scrunch a bit of chicken wire in there if you haven't got the wire flower frame, or pop a pin holder in there, or even just some sellotape or some rubber bands around a structure just to hold the flowers into position. And as more bees descend on here, I'll leave you with this celebration of the garden during British Flowers Week 2020. So please support our British growers, be them commercial, artisan, supermarket flowers that have been British grown. Go out, support those, and bring beautiful flowers indoors. I guarantee it'll bring your room to life with fragrance, colour, and that bountiful bit of nature that is so good for our soul, our spirits, and our mental health. So here we are, my arrangement for you today.